Hey, Tapsters! I got a quick question for you. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? I mean, I guess that's a really silly question because, like, who's not, right? And the Travel Agent Podcast really wants to help you with that. And what we have is this amazing fam experience. It's so much more than a fam. And the reason I'm bringing this to you is because we only have 2 spots left. And so if you were looking for a sign, here's your sign to go to the travelagentpodcast.com/fam trips and just book a call so we can kind of talk about the goals that you have for your business and see if this opportunity is going to, benefit you. Because the one thing I can say about this particular experience is that we have devised a framework that is going to make sure that even before you step foot on the continent, that you will be able to start offering these amazing experiences to your audience. We want to make sure that this is going to be the best return on investment. If this is the type of experience that you're looking to have and you're ready to go all in, then you need to join us. So, listen, we only got 2 left, and I don't know how long that's going to last. So, I look forward to hearing from you. Book a call. Let's talk about it. And here's the episode. Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Travel Agent Podcast. We have another great guest today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here chatting with your audience today. And I'm Sahara Rose De Vore. I am a wellness travel coach and consultant. I am also the founder of the Travel Coach Network.
Yes, so let's start there. How did you become a travel coach?
Yeah, well, let's start with why I started traveling in the first place, right?
Yes.
Travel, I wasn't ever anyone who knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what kind of career I wanted to have. All of my classmates and friends knew their direct path through high school and then university. I hopped around different majors. I just had no idea. It was my third year of university. I saw a tourism and hospitality program as I switched schools. So I entered it. I was like, travel school. I didn't really go anywhere much before that. My family wasn't very nomadic, and we really couldn't afford travel very much when I was younger. And other than like long road trips in the family van. But I was really inspired when I was in my tourism program by all the foreign exchange students that were there and talking about how many countries they had been to. And then my professor talked about how much he has traveled. And so, well, I really want to do that. But being a broke college student, I had no idea how I was going to be able to do that. And ended up just working my butt off, saving a lot of money, and packing a bag upon when I graduated university. Despite having my degree in that in tourism and hospitality, I didn't know of any or hear of any jobs that were really interesting to me. And at 22, I mean, you don't really know who you are anyways, right? You're still a child. And I wanted to learn more about life and see what else is out there, what's possible, who do I want to be, what kind of people do I want to be around, what kind of life do I want to have. So for some reason, I had a feeling like travel would help me with that. And I bought a one-way ticket to Ireland. I always heard about people backpacking Europe, and I was like, well, I'm going to do that. And I had no fear of worrying whether people were going to come with me or not. So I went solo, and I thought I was going to travel for about a month and a half. And I came home for the holidays and caught the travel bug. And I was home for Christmas and I bought another ticket to Central America, and it kind of kept going from there, and spent the next decade on and off hopping around the globe to over 84 countries and just falling in love with what travel was doing to me and for me. And as for travel coaching, I mean, of course, there was no such thing. I didn't hear about it. Um, and honestly, for a really long time, I was just enjoying my travels. I wanted to travel was my thing. I always helped other people. I helped my mom a lot. I always looked out for others, and travel was like my gift to myself. And I didn't want a distraction from that. So that's why I also never worked while I was traveling. But I always say that I travel during a really prime time in the industry. I had a unique perspective and exposure to the rise in technology and social media and how seeing all that transform over the years, being in person, talking to other travelers on why they were traveling as well and what they used, what they liked, what they needed. And I just kind of got all these really interesting ideas and perspectives. So I said, I don't know why I chose this, but I said, when I'm 30, I'll quote unquote figure out my life. Like everyone traveling, you come back home for the holidays and everyone says, when are you going to come home and like settle down? When are you going to do this and that? I'm sure I'm not the only one. People have said that too. And I would tell myself, like, I'll go and figure out my life was always my thing when I'm 30. And so I enjoyed all of my 20s just traveling, just working odd jobs, saving money, and just traveling. I knew that that's what I needed and whatever it was to come was going to come when it was ready to come. We can't foresee the future. We don't know what's to come, what trends are going to come, or, a pandemic was going to happen and reshape the world, right? So I was just trusting the universe and the process. And sure enough, 30 hit. And I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm still traveling. And I opened up my laptop, and it was the first time I started traveling with a laptop and sat in the north of Spain. And I in Bilbao, Spain, and I started Googling like what kind of jobs do people have online, how to start an online business, what's possible, what's out there. And Facebook caught on to me and saw and started pushing coaching at me. I had a lot of business coaches on my feed and life and health and wellness and all those fun things. And to me, I never saw travel coaching, but it clicked. I said, that's it. I want to be a travel coach. And I'm always someone who will figure things out. I mean, I figured out how to travel the world on my own and never go broke. So I was like, I could figure this out as well. And that was the catalyst to becoming a travel coach and starting the Travel Coach Network.
We talked before this interview, but I absolutely love this story because I feel like you lived the life that I wanted to live.
Oh,
um, no, I mean it's such an amazing story because there's so many people who are too scared to take that first step, and you did it for a decade, and you're still traveling. You know what I mean? So when you decided to become a travel coach, what did that mean? What did you kind of coach people on?
yeah, well, I took a look at over the years what people kept asking me about for travel and also seeing what kind of questions I couldn't answer as well. But as a solo female budget backpacker, I had expertise and people were asking me questions on not only specific destinations, but how I was able to do it. How I stayed safe, how I managed my money and made money, all those fun questions I'm sure every traveler gets all the time. And I also was getting really annoyed by the questions that I would get as well, such as, oh, isn't it expensive? Or, isn't it unsafe? You can't, like, how, and I would come back from a trip talking about the beauty of the place I just went to, and someone would say, but it's not safe. You're telling me, who just got back, how wonderful it was that it's not safe? You haven't even been there. So there's this mindset around travel that was such an icky feeling because as a passionate traveler, we know how powerful and impactful travel can be and how beautiful the world and humanity is. Um, and so I took a look at what travel was doing for me and where I found my interest. And even though I could answer questions on safety and budgeting and stuff, that wasn't my passion to talk about. I loved giving tips and stuff and just putting it all into a book. Um, because I wanted to focus more on the wellness side, the healing side to travel. Because one of the reasons when I started traveling after university on a more personal level was more because I always struggled with really bad anxiety, like an anxiety disorder. And I was finding myself in like dark mental places after university because there's so many pressures, right? Like, figure out your life right now at 22, get a job, climb corporate ladder, do what your family wants. And um, I just felt so lost in life. I felt very confused. I didn't know. what I wanted. I wasn't happy. I was in a I worked a lot to save money, but I was working in restaurants and odd jobs. So my routine was very redundant and mundane, and I was no longer happy, and I wanted to be happy, and I didn't know where I would find that, but I knew it might be somewhere out in the world. And so travel was so healing to me. I didn't know I was going to become addicted to travel, and that it would impact me in so many different ways and really transform my life and who I am. Um, but that is the element of travel that I wanted to start helping people with, for people to realize like how powerful of a tool travel could be on their life and their well-being.
That is so true. So tell me a little bit more about the Travel Coach Network.
Yeah, so like I was saying, there are questions that I could answer, on budget or safety, anything that I had a background or expertise in. But I would also get questions from people who I couldn't align with. We were so different. Maybe they were of a different race or religion or background or cultural, limitations, or they were moms who had children and wanted to travel, or they were couples who were traveling, or they were retirees. Like I didn't have those answers because I couldn't specifically relate to them. I could tell you my perspective, but your experience might be a whole different perspective, right? Or a whole different thing. And but I knew when I was traveling, I had met so many travelers along the way who did have those answers. They just didn't know they were experts yet, right? And I knew when I started my wellness travel coaching business and I started talking about travel coaching online, I started getting people messaging me, and this was in 2018, I believe. You saying like, "What is a travel coach?" Or I might already be doing that. I didn't know there was a term. Or I know we were talking about this as well, that it was something you were dabbling in long before the time too. Um, and I that was the first time I actually thought about it, and I was like, "Well, I didn't." They were like, "Well, where'd you learn about this? I want to learn about it." And I said, I thought to myself, I didn't learn about it anywhere. I'm creating my own business based on what I felt was right to me. Yeah, there had been some articles and some things out there, with the terms travel coaching, but that was a very first, before I even after I actually registered my LLC for travel coaching, that's when I went to Google and said like put in travel coaching to see what else exists. I just was so confident and believed so much in it. Um, and I knew that I wanted to create a platform, a place where travelers who were in similar situations like I was, who were lost in figuring out their dream path of what they could do. Because I always knew that I wanted to do something more. I just like when I graduated university, and I knew that I didn't want to work in hotels or be a flight attendant or any of those jobs that they said were possible with my degree. Same thing traveling. I knew what kind of new jobs and travel there were. I just didn't enjoy the booking process or the planning process or the writing or blogging and stuff like that. I had a blog, but it was just to let my mom know that I was alive everywhere. I didn't monetize it or anything. I didn't, none of those aligned with me. And so I wanted to help others kind of add more purpose and meaning to and usage of their love of travel.
So one of the main reasons why I was so excited to have you on the show is because I think there are a lot of people who know in their heart that there's something that they want to do, and they have struggle with finding out what that is. And I love that you knew, I don't want to do this. I don't like doing that. That ain't for me. And carving out your own space in the industry. And I think that's so important because we all have different, I like to call it magic, but we all have something that we can definitely give to the world that is just ours. And it takes whatever we have to give that to the world. And so many of us never find what it is because we're too scared. And
Mhm.
so creating this network, you I just feel like you have given a group of people who may or may not have known what they can do, the empower them to kind of figure that out. So what else do you have going on with the network to continue to like spread the word about the different opportunities in travel?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, what don't I have going on? There's so much, especially in the wellness travel space, right? I had some really great calls today, and just the potential of what's coming for that side of my own travel coaching business. But I built, or I'm building and build both of my businesses alongside one another, as one kind of fed the other, or there was purpose for each other. And what I mean by that is I wanted to show proof of what's possible for the travel coaching industry by also paving paths within my own travel coaching as well, if that makes sense. Whether it's through, I specialize in wellness travel coaching, and that's more so in the corporate world. But my goal is to open opportunities and doors and get the name out for travel coaches and create this database, this place where people can find a travel coach that relates most to them. So whether you're a mom working in the corporate world who doesn't have time to, feel like you can use your vacation days, or business travelers who need a little bit more wellness in their trips and leisure, and people have fear of stepping out of their comfort zone and taking that trip or setting those intentions. And that's the main thing about the travel coaching, is that it's about setting intentions for the trip. We all travel differently. For every time that we travel, we're a new persona every time. One time we might be traveling for work and we are, in our business mindset. The next time that we might be traveling with our partner or our spouse. The next time we might be solo. Next time you might be trying to heal from a traumatic event or a loss of a loved one. Like, we travel differently, seek different things every time we travel. And the travel coaching has just been so exciting for me also to learn all these different areas that people focus in that I never thought about because I didn't relate to it. People helping those with disabilities or, dietary restrictions, or healing from like a loss of a child, and, retiring. And, there's just so many possibilities. And so within the last few months, there's been just a lot of really great things happening for the Travel Coach Network and travel coaching itself too. And I've every time I was telling my network recently that every time I post about something that I've landed an opportunity or partnership, it's like it's in lieu of helping them open the doors too. Because eventually, like, pass the baton on, because I want people to find the work and find the job and find the joy in the job that they do. Because it really is endless. There's so many companies that are looking for more experts that really focus on, the intentions, the goals, the transformations of people, whether they're employees or, leaders. There really is a lot happening and reshaping. And I always said that there's no better time than now to really hone in on what it is that you want to do in the industry. There's a lot of really exciting things. The Travel Coach Network has grown quite a bit over the past few years because people are realizing that, that getting to know their clients or travelers on a deeper level in a more human manner versus a transactional manner, and really building those relationships and tailoring it towards their specific needs and goals for that specific trip has a lot more meaning and depth to it. And it's no longer about just itineraries and, spas when it comes to wellness. There's a lot more depth to the industry and travel as a whole, which is why we see travel being extremely, picking up so much over the past few months and past year. Even in, like, if you look at NASDAQ, some of the most active and successful companies right now are in the travel space, right? So it's an exciting space to be in.
I agree. And again, I just think it's so wonderful that you are helping people find their voice. Because that's really what it is. Because once, like, we know deep down,
Mhm.
it's just kind of bringing that out and showing the world that there's an option. And there's an option to help people, and there's an option to travel the way that you want to travel, because you're right. Everybody travels differently every single time they travel.
Mhm.
And so you may use, this talk to this person if you are traveling with your family, and this other person traveling solo, because it's such a different experience. So as far as as far as the network and the things that you kind of offer, do you mind just kind of going into a little bit more detail of maybe the program and the courses and how that kind of relates to travel agents?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the main program within the Travel Coach Network is the Travel Coach Certification Program. And this was a program that I essentially designed based on what I was doing to build my own business. And 2 years ago, I think it is, yeah, like 2 years ago, I got it accredited through the International Coach Federation. So now it's the only one that exists. And but it's not just a coaching program. I mean, there's so many ICF accredited programs out there, but what really sets the certification program for travel coaches apart is is that you get direct access to me as a mentor, as a coach. It also focuses on tying your love and knowledge and your specifics in travel with what it is that you can coach and help people with. And also, it focuses so much on business because there's so much, as you know, that goes into building and running a business, from the mindset side to the technical side and everything. But to see it grow into the community, the global community that it has been so beautiful. And seeing one another connect and support and meet up in person and have each other on each other's podcasts and have each other on each other's blogs and really just become friends has really made my heart smile. And just kind of watching this like flower of this network bloom in front of me that I never really thought was going to be possible because I was just so focused on building my businesses. So the travel coach certification program is the main one. I do have some subcategories within there that because not everyone, the thing is like sometimes people are like, well, I already got training in coaching. And again, it's not the same as any of the other coaching programs you'll get. So sometimes people just want the business aspect. So I have a couple ones that focus on just like business or just on wellness. Um, but my main one is the certification, and I really am condensing them within the next year, or downsizing my programs, or the quantity of them, I should say, just because both of my businesses are have been taken off so quickly, and I have really exciting things that are happening that I always say to work smarter, not harder, and so the signature program, the certification program, is the main one and has been the main one. But there's tons of free resources within the network too. Like the economy class has a free beginner's guide, which I always love set people up because it's the same exact steps and questions that I asked myself when I started my business. I am always here to be like a resource to people because I know how helpful mentors and people in the industry have been on my path and my journey. So I try to be that for others. And then as for travel agents, you're asking as well. I've seen a lot of travel agents who are just combining those services of coaching and the just the manner of how you work with clients, how you market yourself as well, because we cover that too, is has a lot more depth and meaning to that as well too.
So one of the things that we kind of skimmed over, and I want to go back, is what you do in wellness, because I love your explanation of wellness travel, because a lot of people, including myself, like before we kind of talked, um, anytime anybody talked about wellness, it's like, oh, well, let me show you, take you to the best spa, or like, oh, we can relax at this hotel who has a great spa. Like it always leads back to a spa, but it's so much more than that. And do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. My perspective on wellness travel was always from a holistic approach because traveling healed me and helped me. And I've heard so many stories, and they never had anything to do with a spa or a gym or a yoga retreat. Um, and not saying that there's anything wrong with those, but the travel industry, the wellness travel industry was built upon the spa industry. And so that's how, it kind of had the stigma that and where you still look up, how taking a wellness trip, which is an intentional wellness trip, you have a database or platforms of retreats and resorts to go to. But for me, there's so much more. Everything from nature. When I first started my wellness travel coaching business, I spent a lot of time just doing research. I knew my own anecdotal information and data on how beneficial it was, but I wanted to back that up with research and proof. And there's a lot of studies out there, and there's even more coming out as well because travel was really healing, or elements of travel was really healing during the pandemic. Things like spending time in blue and green spaces outdoors, doctors prescribing spending time in nature, stuff like that. So there's a lot of new studies too. But I just started collecting all this information and analyzing it and really condensing it into things like, spending time in nature, human connection, learning new skills, exercising the brain. These are all things that happen while we travel. We're thinking, we're problem solving, our cognition is always being active, our senses are always being exercised as well with the sand beneath our feet and the fresh air and the sounds and learning new things like languages. So there's a lot of elements that I believed were really important, and research proved that too. And that was the messaging I ran with. And I started studying the different industries like corporate wellness, which it's funny because the industries I got into were the industries I didn't have a background in. But you don't need a background in something to know there's a problem, right? So I knew within the corporate world, I started seeing so many people, whether while I was on my travels or in Facebook groups, talking about how they either did or wanted to quit their 9 to 5. It became like a tagline, right? Quit the corporate job to travel the world, quit the 9 to 5, um, quit the cubicle life. And I was like, well, it was happening over and over again. I was like, what's going on in the corporate world that people are quitting? There was like executives, people making tons of money, leaders quitting to travel. Well, what was it about travel that was so attractive, and what was happening in the workplaces? So there's tons of studies I started diving into on the lack of encouragement to use vacation days, especially in the States, and all that good stuff. And I started studying also business travel. I remembered a time that I was sitting on a plane next to a business traveler, and we were just having conversation, and he had everything down on paper that people dream of. He was married and had a family and had a great house and a great salary, a great position. He traveled for work. Everyone says, find a job that pays you to travel, which is what people told me after university too. And I was like, oh, I want to be able to do something with those travels. And he was sat there and he would told me how envious he was of my life. And I was this dirty, stinky backpacker just coming from Thailand, going to India with no plan in mind. I had no idea where I was going when I got to Mumbai, and he was envious of me. And I remembered that years later when I started my wellness travel coaching business, and I said, let me look to see what's going on with the burnout epidemic within business travel too. And I've paid my paths throughout those industries, and particularly the business travel industry, and really built a lot of relationships and connections and with industry leaders and executives and CEOs and platforms, new ones, old ones, hotels, everything, and really established my place as an authority figure in wellness travel, in using my holistic beliefs and approach to wellness travel. And sure enough, the industry is saying that we need more. We need more about wellness and travel than what we've been doing of spas and gyms and retreats.
Well, I just applaud you for taking the initiative to find yourself in the midst of people probably saying things that weren't encouraging, and taking that and encouraging others. So, thank you for holding space
Oh, thank you.
for lots of people, and it's been such a pleasure to have met you and to just interact with your content, and finally, like, get to really interview you and continue to follow your journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I just knew that when I met you, us Midwest vibes were going to align quite well. So I loved it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I'm sure we will have you on again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd love to come back.